Hey everyone, today we're working on our project that goes along with the independent memoir study. So, last week and this week, you chose from a choice board one of the following memoir excerpts. You chose either The Magnolia Story, Trevor Noah, Born a Crime, Living with the Monks by Jesse Eitzler, or I Am Malala. Chose one of those four memoirs from our choice board, and today you are going to be demonstrating your understanding of the skills from this particular unit with creating a presentation. So everyone is getting today a template for a keynote. Today, tomorrow, and Thursday, you will be creating a presentation all surrounding your memoir. So if you chose I Am Malala, then your entire presentation is based on I Am Malala. If you chose Living with the Monks, then your entire presentation is based on this memoir. So let me show you what the template looks like, and then I'll show you the teacher example too. So you can feel free to change the background of your keynote. You can feel free to go in and put in extra pictures, make it your own, make it fun. But this is the actual format that you're using. Everything that's in here, you're just filling in the blanks. And there are red pieces for you to do that. Okay, so this is your keynote. This is what you're going to be using today, tomorrow, and Thursday to create a presentation on your particular memoir. So it says add a picture of the memoir you chose. So you're going to, again, put either this guy, this one, or this one on that first page. Okay, so it says an analysis of your choice here by your name here. Please fill these in with your information. Okay, on the first page, you guys are creating examples of figurative language. So I made you guys a Quizlet. The Quizlet has all of the terms of figurative language that we learned in this unit. So feel free to click that link, follow it, and refresh your memory. You're going to write one sentence about your memoir using a metaphor. So if you read I Am Malala, you're writing a metaphor about this memoirist. If you chose Magnolia Story, then you're going to write a metaphor about the Magnolia Story, something from in it. It could be a character, it could be an event, it could be a setting, whatever you want. Okay, you're going to write a sentence of your own about the memoir using alliteration, and then finally you're going to write a sentence of your own about the memoir using a simile. So this first page is you creating examples of figurative language. You're not looking for them in the text. You're making your own. The next slide, sensory language in the memoir. So you're going to think about where are there sensory details in your memoir excerpt. That's how something smells, how it looks, how it tastes, how it feels. So for this one, you're going to, on that first tab, explain it. A sensory detail present in the memoir was, and then you're going to just type out in your own words. Then the second one here, you're going to pull a quote that shows it. So we got to follow that MLA format, starting with a lead in, a line from the memoir, whatever you chose, Living with the Monks, that includes sensory detail of smell, is, comma, quotation mark. Then you're dropping in a quote from the book that shows an example of that sensory detail. Make sure at the end you're doing your citation. I have it here, you're filling it in. So you're putting your author's last name, the page number you found it, both in parentheses, period at the end. So if this is your memoir, your last name and your citation is Eitzler. If this is your memoir, you're putting Gaines in your citation. If this is your memoir, you're putting Yousafzai in your citation. And if this is your memoir, you're putting Noah in your citation. Then we wrap up that quote with our own words. This quote with sensory language helps the reader what? Okay, helps the reader feel like he or she is there, helps the reader visualize the setting, helps the reader understand the smell of the setting, and makes him or her feel like she can relate to being there, whatever. So you're filling that in. Okay, our next slide is what I've learned. So this is a summary of the actual content of the memoir. So if you read I Am Malala, what did you learn from this memoir? All of these memoirists are teaching lessons. That's why we specifically chose these four for your choice board. Okay, so if you read Malala, what did you learn from her? If you read Jesse Eitzler, what did you learn from him? You're putting basically like the wisdom gained from these memoirs here, and you're writing a 5-sentence paragraph. Next up, we have interesting vocabulary. So Mrs. Connors and I, we kind of guided you towards interesting vocabulary words by pulling them out in the guided reading. So here you're identifying 3 vocabulary words from the memoir that you didn't know before, and you're defining them. So before, you guys use context clues to define them in your guided reading. Here we want denotations, dictionary definitions. So you're literally going to go onto the dictionary app, you're going to type in your word, and you're going to put definitions in here. Vocabulary development. Okay, the next one is meaningful content. This is you citing quotes. So we want to see you guys using that MLA format, starting with a lead in. Okay, and then you're going to put in the author's words, and then you're going to have your citation at the end. Parenthesis, author, last name, page number, and parenthesis. So the first one says, cite a significant line from the memoir in MLA. So think about what's the most important line from your excerpt from Malala. What really was super impactful and very important. Don't just pull a random line. We're determining importance here. That's our reading skill. If you did the Magnolia story, what was the most important line or a couple lines from this excerpt? If you chose Trevor Noah, Born a Crime, what was the most impactful moment line from that excerpt? And you're going to quote it. The second piece here is you're going to quote a second significant line from your memoir, but this one's going to include dialogue, and dialogue is when a character is talking. So you're going to be pulling words from the memoirists that are spoken in the text, and we're doing this here because there's a specific formatting that you use for MLA when you're pulling dialogue, and that is when you have quotation marks inside quotation marks. The inside ones turn into apostrophes. So when you set up your quote, it will say lead in. An example of dialogue from the text is, comma, quotation mark. And then when you have the author's words and it's dialogue, you're going to put apostrophes around it. There's a video about that you can watch embedded in your playlist. It's also on our YouTube channel. Okay, and the last thing is going to be a photo collage that represents the memoir. So here you can make a pic collage and drop it on here. You can put the images straight onto the Keynote, but you're collecting at least 3 images that visually represent the memoir. Okay, so that's not just like the cover of the book, but it's like what's most important here and what are some photos that you can include. If you're doing one of the memoirs that has photos embedded in it, such as Malala, so at the very end of Malala, I actually put a pic collage of photos. Please don't take the photos off of there. I want you to research some pictures that you feel are relevant and put those in there. Okay, so that's your Keynote project. You're using this template and you're literally filling in the red pieces of text with things that are relevant for you. Now, if you need a model, if you need extra assistance, then what you can do is you can use the teacher example that I'm putting into supportive resources. So in supportive resources, I modeled this entire thing. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. Okay, so you can find this helpful because it models exactly what it will look like. Now, I used Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, just so that you aren't copying. If I did Malala, you could copy pieces from Malala. So this is our first author that we read together, our first memoirist that we read together. So use this as a springboard. So you'll notice here in the first slide, I did my own figurative language sentences that follow the 3 that it asks for, and I highlighted, changed the text, bolded, underlined those particular pieces of figurative language so that they stand out. Here I talked about figurative language. I pulled a quote that has figurative language. This one, I talked about what I learned from reading the memoir. Here I have example of 3 vocabulary words. They are defined. I have parts of speech listed. For meaningful content, I have an example of pulling a quote without dialogue, and the second one I have a quote with dialogue. You'll notice here that when I have those quotation marks, inside quotation marks, these ones turn to apostrophes, 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 right there. Okay, and then of course at the very end I created my pick collage. So that is what we're doing over the next 3 days. This is demonstrating all of the skills that we've learned in our memoir unit. It's demonstrating figurative language competency. It's demonstrating sensory language competency. It is demonstrating understanding author's purpose. It's demonstrating vocabulary development. It's demonstrating being able to pull a quote in MLA format, parenthetical citation format. And then it is showing imagery and visual representation. So again, you have 3 days to work on this. If you have questions, please join office hours at 3:05, and please use supportive resources to help you today. Okay, if you have questions, send me an email or 3:05 office hours. Thank you.